the entire book kind of came about because I got asked to do a Christmas book for Presents, which I had never done before. I'd done kind of small town Christmas books before, and I thought, how do you kind of bring that holiday spirit into the high glamour kind of fairy tale-esque Presents line? And I thought, wouldn't it be great if the hero got given the heroine as a Christmas present? So that was kind of the jumping off point. So that's essentially what happens. Like the heroine Zara is given to Prince Andres as kind of a political gift, and basically say, put her in the harem, marry her, whatever you want to do. And he says that he's going to convince her to be his wife by Christmas. So that's kind of his vow of seduction. I mean, I always get kind of inspired by the characters first, and I was thinking about how much fun it would be to do kind of a little feral kind of heroine. And so I did this heroine who's kind of she's a long lost princess of this country that had been taken over in a war, and her servants sent her to live in the woods with this kind of nomadic people, and so she's basically feral, and that was really fun to write. She's a princess, but she wasn't raised in that environment, so it was interesting to pair her with the prince, who's kind of this worldly, sophisticated playboy. So I guess the big difference was that kind of jumping off point with the heroine, this heroine that really hasn't been a part of society, and so she's kind of out of time, really. And that's what I was drawn to reading. I like historical romance. So I like the Duke, I like the Rake, I like a guy who pulled himself up from the streets and now runs the gaming hell. Like, I like a dark, kind of really enigmatic hero. And then the Presents line was kind of my other introduction to romance. So those very kind of larger than life heroes. And cowboys, same thing. I like the heroes that are kind of not bound to the same rules as everybody else. Like, they have a moral code, but it's definitely their own.
Right.
It may not be something we recognize as moral, but it's something they believe in. So I just like that strong man, and I'm drawn to that as a reader and a writer. And then in terms of the happily ever afters, I remember I had gone through this string of reading a bunch of really depressing books, and I actually returned one angrily to the store, and I was like, this book was awful. Why would you sell this to people? It was terrible. And then shortly after that, I read my first Harlequin, and I realized that, like, I could be guaranteed that happy ending, and that was kind of how I discovered romance. And I had just had my second child, and having kids it just makes you feel like you've brought these kids into the world, and it's so uncertain, and there's all this nasty stuff, and life is uncertain. And so the last thing I wanted was uncertainty and kind of sadness in my fiction.
Right.
And so that's kind of what draws me to the happy ending as a reader. And then as a writer, it's just what I love. I want to write what I love to read, and I want to give books to my readers that I believe in. And that a friend of mine said that in order to write romance, you really kind of have to be a hope junkie. And I think that kind of sums it up. Like, I want to give people hope. Like, that's what I want to write about, is that kind of hopeful, positive thing. I want to write about love.